Hi there, nice to see you again. This is Jason Tian, the lawyer from Shanghai, China. In my last video, we talked about how to make a will for your assets in China. Today, we're going to talk about how a foreigner can conduct the inheritance of China estate. What document, what steps, the procedures, and how many ways you can finish your inheritance of the estate in China. I'm going to show you, the outline of my discussion today, so you understand, what's the points in this topic, in this discussion. And let's switch to the outline. Okay, as you can see on my screen, uh, the main topic is how to inherit estate in China. Okay, basically we lay out uh, three methods, three routes a foreigner can conduct the inheritance of the estate in China. All right, let's go one by one. The first is the inheritance right notarization. Okay, Uh, this notarization route generally applies when the heirs or the beneficiaries in either intestate succession or testate succession. Uh, all the interested party or stakeholder have no dispute. Everybody agree how to go about the inheritance. Okay, since if there's no dispute, I think the parties can consider using this notarization route. All right, by notarization route, I mean uh, the clients, the heirs, the person who are going to receive the estate will need go to China notary office and submit documents, ask them to issue a notarization document which affirming the client's right to inherit a certain piece of estate in China. Okay, here, so when it comes to notarization of your inheritance right in China, you first look at which notary office you need to go, right? This is about the jurisdiction about notary office in China. Uh, in Shanghai, where I work and live, uh, you know, all the notary offices in Shanghai can take on clients for any estate located in Shanghai. Uh, but if uh, let's say the clients have going to inherit a piece of property, a real property, generally you can go to any notary office here in Shanghai to apply for not, notarizing your inheritance right for that piece of estate. All right. So basically, as you may understand, in inheritance generally have two types of inheritance. The first one we call it intestate succession or intestate inheritance. That means the deceased uh, has not written a valid will, or the will is struck off. It's not valid. Then the estate will be distributed according to what the law says. All right. Here, I think this is basic idea everybody should know. In the case of intestate succession, generally there is a scope of heirs that are entitled to receive the estate. That scope was provided by China's succession law. Generally, it includes two uh, two orders or two sequences of heirs. First, um, the spouse, the parents, and the children. This is the first order. If none of the first order heirs exist at the time of death, and then it goes to the second order of heirs. It includes the siblings, the grandparents, and grandparents-in-law. Oh, I should not say grandparents-in-law, but yeah, anyway, grandparents. Yeah. Okay. Those people, they can uh, apply together uh, to the notary office, submit document to prove the family relationship, and 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 why they have, they are entitled to receive this estate. Um, in that case, the notary officer will just based on the document provided by all the heirs and issue uh, a notarization document to affirming to confirm uh, the applicant's inheritance right to that piece of estate. Okay. Um, the second is the type of inheritance or succession is tested inheritance. Well, by tested, it means the deceased has a valid will. So the people, the beneficiary appointed in the will, we have the right to receive the estate according to what the will says. Well, in this case, it can be very complicated because most of our clients are foreigners. So when foreigner have a will, uh, you know, to for have a will for him to claim the estate. So if the will is made in China and is valid, then probably not really too much complicated. But if the will is actually made in outside China, in a foreign country, that could have very you know complicating com a lot of complexity there. Basically, uh, when you go to a notary office here in China, present a foreign will to the notary officer. So that officer might say, "Wow, how can I know that will is valid or not, right?" So this is the first basic thing, the basic question the notary officer will need to make sure before he proceed, to notarize the inheritance right for you. All right. So this can be this actually controversial in China. Many notary officer in Shanghai where we deal a lot, uh, even in Beijing or in Shenzhen, where we also practice, we also handle quite a number of cases. Those notary officer, when you tell them this will, even it is notarized and legalized in China consulate in your home country, but still they might feel, I don't know. I mean, how can I make sure this will is valid? What if some heir, some other people, interested party will challenge the validity of the will, right? So that's very understandable. So we have tried to argue with some notary offices, and it seems there's there has come to, I think, a common understanding where if the foreign will is probated in a foreign court, all right, that means that will is upheld by the foreign court as valid, and then with that probated with a foreign court probate document, and then it's much easier for the China notary office to accept the validity of that foreign will. Okay, you understand? This is a very key point. All right, so that foreign will shall be probated first in a foreign court uh, before it can be easily accepted by China notary offices. Okay, by well, in either case, in tested or tested succession, the procedure is pretty much the same. You first prepare all the document to prove the existence of the estates, the ownership belonging to the deceased, and then you need to prove your relationship, family relationship to to the deceased, or you need to prove that you are the beneficiary appointed in that will. So after you prepare all such document, you can go to notary officer and ask them to do notarization for you. They will check throughout all the document and make sure in all documents is the genuine, is real. There's no fraudulent document. Sometimes this uh, process can be uh, it's not as easy as it sounds. Some notary officers can be very careful, scrutinizing every document to see whether there's something wrong. Okay. Indeed, in the past, different notary officers may have uh, different degree of care in scrutinizing the document here. So, we deal with those notary officers a lot. So sometimes, if a document probably is not perfect, uh, you know, because we are familiar, because I help them to get a business, so they can give us a kind of sometimes a green light. This is kind of a tips in practice. Okay. Um, so when you talk about notarization, you need to understand what about the fees, right? How much you need to pay for the notarization. Strictly speaking, this actually they used to be the same the uniform, the all the same kind of fees charged by notary officer uh, for this kind of notarization. It's actually a progressive uh, rate in light of the value of the estate. But in Shanghai, back in 2016, um, the fees for notarization of inheritance right is now based on, I mean, when it comes to the inheritance of a real property, it comes to the fee is charged based on the size of the real property, RMB 80 yuan per square meters. The size actually is always indicated on the title deed of that real property. You can check it out before you will understand how much you need to pay for this notarization. Well, notarization, as I say, uh, if you don't have a legal representative, don't have an agent to act on your behalf, I think you have to appear in person before notary officer. Everybody need to appear, unless those heirs who waive their right. Uh, when you waive the right, you need to sign a waiver. That waiver, if you sign it outside China, it also has to be notarized and legalized before it can be used in China notary office. Uh, so I'm trying to say, if in many cases, the foreign clients, you know, if especially when there is more than one heirs or where more than one beneficiary, so it's not easy for them to come all the way to China to uh, to sign the paper, to submit the paper, and to wait for notarization. And it takes time, and it takes some cost, and the travel cost, the accommodation, and hotel fees in China. So many foreign clients actually realize that instead of spending so much money and so much time on such work, it's probably more advisable, more sensible to appoint someone like in our team, a China lawyer, to help you to navigate you throughout the whole process, and you just pay some legal fee. It's not super high anyway, so don't worry about that. So here we talk about this part. We talk about uh, inherit China estate by way of notarization. Well, uh, when it comes to inheritance of real property, we talk about homes, offices, and real estate anyway. For this kind of estate, by inheritance, it means the title of the property will be transferred from deceased name to the name of the recipient, name of the heirs or beneficiary, uh, one or multiple recipient. Here, as I mentioned, back in 2016, China Ministry of Justice, in an effort to reduce the ordinary people's burden, financial burden, to dealing with some aspect of life. So they have how to say in the past, before that, before 2016, if you want to go about the inheritance of certain um, uh, piece of estate, you have to go to notarization. You have to go to notary office to do notarization. But uh, in 2016, the new rule says, in order to save the people's money, so you don't have to do notarization again. You just go to the real estate authority and present, the document, the same kind of document, the same set of document as you presented to notary officer. Now you can present the document to uh, the clerks, at the real authority. They have a special window, they have a special window to receive such application for transfer title from a deceased to the recipient. Well, uh, while it sounds okay, I mean, you can do it yourself, but for foreign clients, again, it's not easy because you are not in China, right? And when you do it this way, DIY way, all the heirs or beneficiaries have to appear before the real estate authority clerk. So they will check your identity, make sure every document, every person is a real. I mean, there's no fake stuff. But because of this requirement, you know, if the foreign clients, uh, when they come to inherit estate in China, a real estate in China, it's not easy for them, right? Again, it's about traveling, it's about accommodation, it's about staying here in China for some time. Uh, so uh, it's probably really not a good idea for the foreign client to choose the DIY way. No, other than other estates than the real property, like a stock, equity interest in a closed company, or bank deposit, or some of the fund units, or probably antiques. For this kind of stuff, you will still need to conduct a notarization to confirm your inheritance right to this estate before you can take over the title. All right, this is the we call it DIY way or self-helping way of inheriting real estate, real property in China. All right, the third way for conduct inheritance of estate in China, that's called litigation. I mean, you know, it's not uncommon to see the brothers, sisters, they have the core with each other, right? So when it comes to inheritance, there's a lot of dispute among the heirs or among the beneficiaries. Sometimes uh, 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 you know um, a child that is left out the will is unhappy and are trying to challenge the will. So it will all lead to litigation in courtroom. Uh, Here, basically, when we talk about court litigation for inherited estate in China, most people talk about the litigation lawsuit between and among the heirs or the beneficiaries, those people who are going to receive, the estate. But while that's true, and but sometimes it's not really used a lot in practice because in China, you know, people don't really want to sue the government. Okay, We are talking about here the second action, kind of action against the real estate registration authority, right? Here, we don't really want to sue your siblings or your other people. You might think of to sue and the real estate authority uh, to ask them to effect the title transfer. Uh, um, well, we did have a case of this kind, and it's really really rare. But we did succeed in transferring title by suing real estate registration authority. Okay, well here by we talk about lawsuit between and among the heirs or beneficiary. Um, Actually, there are still two kinds of lawsuit here we can discuss. The first, when there is a real dispute among the parties, right? Um, in that case, you have to one heir or one beneficiary has to sue the other or the others, and they have to have a real fight in the courtroom to argue in their best interest. But indeed, in practice, we have another kind of litigation lawsuit when it comes to inheritance of estate in China. That is a dispute, a lawsuit uh, that is artificial. I call it artificial. It means there's actually no real dispute. But when you want to finish the inheritance by way of the notarization, for some reason, most often because there's the lack certain document or certain document is not accepted by a notary officer. In that case, no, the notary officer will just tell you go to court. I mean, court will after all will finally resolve every dispute in the society, right? So again, in this case, because there's a certain document you cannot provide, I think although there's no real dispute among parties, you can still frame up. I call it a frame a lawsuit. I could designate a person as plaintiff, takes another person as the defendant. I think file the case with the court, and well, in practice, sometimes it is true. The court can be a little bit um, lenient when they decide whether to accept a certain a piece of document. For example, sometimes the deceased is died at a certain age, let's say over 30 or over 80. Uh, well, the notary officer some notary officer might assume the parents of the deceased should have died before them. I mean, in most cases, it's pretty true, right? But in some notary officer might disagree, ask the client have to provide the dates of the deceased parents. And if you cannot provide, because sometimes in some cases it's probably it's too early to have any recording of those dates. So in this case, you probably have to go to China court. I mean, the judge might be more ready to assume because there's no other party challenge challenge the fact. So the judge may just let it go. All right, they just you know uh, deliver a judgment as expected. You know, before we start the lawsuit. Actually, we have managed to uh, solve a few cases by this way. Uh, but sometimes the clients are not really, uh, you know, don't really understand why we have to go to court. I mean, when there's no lawsuit. But again, I mean, this is a very practical practical experience in our long time practice of this area of law. So I think this will help you understand uh, the whole picture about how a foreigner can inherit estate in China. Uh, so I think I have so much for this topic today. And if you have any other questions, uh, as always, you can leave below the video. I will try to respond. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.